Today we're looking at Isaiah chapter 42 through 44, which now as I'm doing this made me think of a comment I made about yesterday's devotional that we're going to look at 8 chapters. We're not. We're going to look at 9 chapters, 4 chapters tomorrow. I apparently can't count because I forgot when you start with 40, that counts as 1. Anyways, probably none of that matters to you. Let's jump in. I wanted to mention chapter 42. Now, Isaiah chapter 42 contains the first of what is often called 4 servant songs. And it's interesting that different scholars well, the song in chapter 42 is just verses 1 to 4. Others say 1 to 7. Others say 1 to 9. Because there's this interesting conversation of who exactly is this servant? Is it an individual, the Messiah, for example, or is it talking about the true nation, the faithful covenant people of God, in this case, kind of faithful Israel, faithful Jews? The servant of God is this figure who's going to lead the nations, the Gentile nations, but will horribly be abused by them as well. Again, and we'll be looking future ones at different servant songs, or Google servant songs of Isaiah, and you'll see a synopsis and which passages we're talking about. Again, this servant could be talking about the Messiah, the ideal royal king and priest, but some aspects do seem to be talking about the nation as a whole. And here's where we need to remember that the Messiah was always understood, or always to be understood, as the representative of the nation of God's faithful people. And even when the nation, the covenant people, weren't faithful, the Messiah, the servant, would be on their behalf. And so we see in chapter 42, verses 18 to 20, God saying through Isaiah, the nation is deaf. In chapter 44, the nation needs God's forgiveness because the servant of the Lord would be God's faithful and true witness to all of humanity. Again, let's remember that even as covenant people today, new covenant people, we still struggle to follow and be faithful at all times. Humanity needs a witness to the God of Israel, the true God, because of our penchant for making idols, which is, again, a theme of these chapters. Idols are and were, in that day, more than a created object, or even about this idea about false gods. Idolatry at its root is about misplaced or disordered loves. It's why adultery is a common image among the prophets in the Old Testament for idolatry by God's covenant people. They're supposed to love Yahweh more than anything else, but there's a disordered love. They're loving something else, whether it's another God or what that God, they want something, and they're going to choose to follow this God because they think that one will give it instead of Yahweh, the true God. And so they're, and how we show love kind of from a spiritual standpoint is who we follow, who we worship. And again, these false gods like Baal or Ashtaroth or others that we read about in the Old Testament, why were they worshipped? Because they promised something. For example, fertility for crops, or wealth, or health, or security and strength, victory over enemies. I mean, these were a number of the things worshippers of Baal and Ashtaroth would, do their rituals, because, well, if we do this ritual, we can manipulate Baal, we can manipulate Ashtaroth in giving us what we want. These false gods were ones that promised something, and if you do things our way, we will guarantee you get this. It's a form of putting ourselves at the center, because it's not that false god, it's not that idol that's ultimately being worshipped. It's something that we think that idol will get for us, that we're not willing to wait or to receive from God. We're not willing to allow God to be that first love, that first priority. And so, yeah, we can have idols today. Absolutely. We can value things, we can value people above God. That enables us to things like pride or greed or self-centeredness or love of possessions, health and wealth, security, where we don't depend and we don't give our allegiance to God first and foremost. Signs that we're following idols sometimes can also be fear or anger because we're not resting in the peace and the security that does come from Jesus. See, and idols, they always take, they never truly give. Idols, as Isaiah will remind the people in his day, and we're reminded of today, idols don't sacrifice for their worshipers. You have to bend or break to them. But the servant of Yahweh, the servant of God, is one who will not break the bruised. He gives of himself. And that's the kind of God we serve. One who came not to be served, but to serve others, as Jesus would say. And so he is worthy of our love, our allegiance, above all other gods, idols, people, anything. Where are you struggling with fear or anger? Where are you seeking security? Where are you looking for the things you want most out of life? Is it Yahweh himself? Is it God himself? Or are you wanting something from God? That's where idols can take root today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you. And today would you know his peace. God bless.